بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I praise Allah. I thank Allah tabarak wa ta'ala for the blessings of Al-Islam. I thank Allah for His endowments, for the state of well-being, and for His covering of my sins and shortcomings. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala send countless blessings and salutations on Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those who followed us in excellence until the day of judgment. I want to make a disclaimer, and it's a serious disclaimer that should be well known, but maybe it's not, and maybe people have good opinions, and that's a good thing, but I don't want a good opinion to go beyond reality. What is that? That disclaimer is, I am not a scholar. I am not a scholar. I am not a sheikh. I am not a real imam. Though I have the title imam, I do run a masjid, yes. But in the real technical term, we don't fit. So we're not alim, we're not sheikh, we're not imam. Truly, I am your brother in Islam, right? And I'm not saying that out of humbleness. I'm saying it out of reality, because I don't want anyone to be deluded and to think that we're somewhere that we're not, right? And that's not putting us down, that's just being reality. I'm not one of those people who like to make claims. I hate claims, because I believe when people make claims, they lower the bar. And when you lower the bar, people are not going to strive for real scholarship, for real knowledge, and for high levels. They're going to keep it where your bar is, right? So I don't believe in that. And that's why we read these biographies of real scholars and real ulama and real sheikhs who actually put in the work. None of you would call any of us a doctor who never went to medical school or who didn't learn the trade. You're not going to call them a doctor. You'll call them a quack, right? That doesn't mean you cannot benefit from them, but it's not a doctor, right? So in the same way with religious, knowledge, because it's too loose around here. Sheikh so-and-so, this one's a scholar, and this, it's too much, really. And it lowers the bar. You know what I mean? And let's not lower the bar. We can't afford it. Let's keep the bar. If we're going to do anything, let's raise the bar. Don't lower it, right? And let us not bring Islamic knowledge down to us. Let us rise up to Islamic knowledge, right? Because these terms are too loose. They're used too loosely. And they're used way outside of the reality, right? I know we want to be someone. Let's work to become someone. Let's not just make claims. I'll give you an example. One of the teachers of my teacher, he talked about his teachers. So this is only 2 generations ago, right? He said, when we were in our talab, when we were studying, he said, our teachers said that when they were studying, if the teacher didn't memorize the book he was teaching, no one would sit with him. Oof, think about that. So you're only talking about my teacher, his teachers, and his teachers to their teachers, 3 generations. So roughly, we're talking about 100, 150 years ago, right? That they had the habit, when they went to study with a teacher, if he didn't memorize the book, they would not sit with him at all. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's reading books. That's how they were, right? Because they were concerned, did you master the knowledge? And a sign that you mastered the knowledge is that you memorized it. So at least if you have the knowledge memorized, your mistakes will be less. But if you don't memorize, your mistakes are going to be many, and you're going to contradict the text many times, which is our case, right? We don't recall Masail cases well because we don't memorize anything. We rely on books. We rely on notebooks. Nothing is in the mind except everything that doesn't belong in the mind. This is real. So I'm saying this as a disclaimer. I don't want anyone to reach the point, oh yeah, this is the sheikh and I'm learning from Imam and he's a scholar and that's your claims. I don't accept at all. And I'm not saying it out of humbleness. For real, I want us to be, we'll never grow if we keep lowering the bar. Seriously, we won't. Look at these lessons you're learning with me as some foundational things to help you go to the next level. And there will be a level after that and a level after that, right? Right now, if you want to put where we're at, we're in grades kindergarten to 4th grade. That's where we're at right now. All of what we're talking about is from grades K to 4. Maybe sometime we talk about 6th grade stuff, right? Did you hear how I'm emphasizing? What we're learning now in traditional Islamic study, in traditional classical Islamic studies, we're from K to 4. Maybe sometimes we go to 6th grade. We're not even in junior high school, and definitely we're not in high school yet. In the traditional Islamic circles. But that's fine, right? That's fine. It's fine. Because one day, when we become university students in the real sense, right? We're going to appreciate this primary studies, right? We're going to appreciate it that someone told us, this is where you're at. Stop acting like you're somewhere you're not. Master where you're at, so when you go to the next level, you're ready. You know? And this is what I hope. With that said, that means I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not a professor. I'm grade school teacher, right? With those mistakes, always understand that there are errors. And when you discover an error, bring it to my attention, right? Because I'm human, I make mistakes. I have a slip of the tongue all the time. My brain moves faster than my mouth, right? So I may make errors. I may say, I may express things in a way that's not befitting to express. It happens, right? But we are brothers and sisters. Let's fix it and correct it, right? So I want to keep that in mind. You know, as Sheikh Samir says to us all the time, he said, I may be right, I may be wrong. I'm wrong all the time. I make mistakes all the time, right? He says this all the time. Anyone who has sat in his presence and you've heard him, You've heard him say this before, multiple times. I may be right, I may be wrong. I'm wrong all the time, right? So, with that being said, I just want to, because I don't want to create some false hopes and false thoughts in the minds of those who are studying with me. We have a long way to go, but we are beginning our journey, and alhamdulillah, we are benefiting on our journey. But we have a long way to go, a long way to go, right? And the biggest journey we have is the inward journey, to clean ourselves up, right? Inside, the states of our hearts, right? And because when we fix that, the outward it moves faster. But since we concentrate so much on the outward, the inward still remains soiled and we don't develop, right? Your greatest work is the work on your heart, right? As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, verily Allah does not look at your forms or your deeds. Rather, he looks at your heart. Your clothes and your forms and what you outwardly do is really not the scale. The real scale is what's going on inside the heart, right? And that aspect needs to be corrected, right? I say that so that, inshallah, no one. So, and another thing, lastly, before we go on, just as you like to correct, always be open to be corrected. Keep that in mind. Just as you like to correct others, always be open so that others can correct you. Right? Make that your state. As you correct, you can correct others. Be prepared and be open and be delighted when others correct you. Right? When others bring your blameworthy points to your attention, that one is a friend. That one has honored you by telling you your mistakes, your shortcomings, your blameworthy points. Why? Because if the one gives you sincere advice and says, this is wrong, this is a mistake, you should correct this, that person is benefited you. Because if you take good advice, you will learn, you will develop, you will fix. And that's why the companions, radiallahu ta'ala anhum, they used to ask others, tell me my blameworthy points, right? They were more concerned with their own mistakes than the mistakes of others, right? How am I falling short? How am I falling short? All of us should be concerned about that. How are we falling short? And if you want to be excellent at it, be more delighted when someone corrects you than you are delighted when you correct someone else. Be more delighted when someone corrects you than you are when you correct someone else. And Allah knows best. Inshallah, let us move on to our reading. As we said, every day we will do a biography of a scholar. So today we want to read about the great Imam Al-Bayhaqi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So we'll go to page 1041, biographical note X 103 in the book Reliance of the Traveler. Now, hello? Are you ready?
Sorry, the mute. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, X103, Bayhaqi, F8.44, is Ahmed ibn al-Hussein ibn Ali Abu Bakr al-Bayhaqi, born in Khajrajan, a village around Bayhaq, near Nisapur, Persia, in 384-994.
So mark this date. Imam al-Bayhaqi, he was born in 384. So that's the 4th century. So he was before Imam al-Ghazali, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and he was right after the time of as-Salaf, those first 3 generations. So his teachers were students of the Salaf, right? So you just got to match the time. Now, go ahead.
A principal hadith master, Hafiz, and Shafi'i Imam, he was raised in Bayhaq, but traveled to gain sacred knowledge to Baghdad, Kufa, Mecca, and other cities.
Here, so al-Bayhaqi, and I want you to notice these terms. Al-Bayhaqi was a Hafiz. So I'll ask you, when we say Hafiz, what is meant? So let's see if you've been paying attention. Whenever we say al-Hafiz, what is meant by that? In our talks, in our lessons, what are we talking about? So he said al-Bayhaqi was a Hafiz, right? And then the translation, he said hadith master, so that's kind of giving it away. But what is a Hafiz? Right. Isla, Julie, Moore. Everyone knows, right? Okay, tell you. So you will notice that when we speak of great scholars, we say Hufaz of Hadith. So whenever you're talking about the Quran and the Sunnah, when we're talking about Hadith and we want to weigh and know knowledge of Hadith, we're discussing the Hufaz of Hadith, those great masters of Hadith, not the parrot who's quoting without real knowledge of Hadith. These are experts in the field. So if you want to know about Hadith knowledge and you want to know authenticity and the knowledge of men and weighing the narrators, that is the knowledge that has to come from Hafiz. If a person is not Hafiz, he only can quote from the Hufaz. His statement has no weight at all. Right? This is something you need to understand. So if the person is not quoting from the Hufaz of Hadith, from the Mujtahidun, and those in the different levels of ijtihad and Islamic scholarship, we don't give no weight to their sayings as their sayings of their own. If they are not following in the methodology of the Hufaz, we're not paying them no attention, as if you didn't talk. Why is this important? Because we don't lower the bar, right? So you notice you will have these great scholars who were master memorizers of Hadith. Memorizing the Quran was first. That's easy for them. That's not even a discussion. Like, did you not memorize the Quran? That's not a discussion in their talk. We're talking about mastery of the Islamic science. That's the beginner stage. Masters of Hadith, masters of the Arabic language, masters of the principles of jurisprudence, masters of jurisprudence, masters of the spiritual paths, mastery of the Quranic sciences. That's scholarship. That is scholarship. And we need to get that in our minds, even if we are not at that level. We need to realize there is expertise in Islam. It is not a do-it-yourself religion. And there are qualifications and levels in scholarship. I know we in the West, we can do what we want. That doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. Many of us go to Jumu'ah and the Jumu'ah is invalid because the Imam doesn't even know the integrals and the requisites of a khutbah. So he performs the Jumu'ah in an invalid manner every week. And now that and not to be watching, but now that we have, all these virtual Jumu'ahs, and you just see it. You're not looking for it. You just see someone's Jumu'ah, virtual Jumu'ah. He's giving the khutbah online. And you listen to the khutbah, he doesn't even make the requisites. The arkan of the khutbah are not even mentioned. Invalid. That's not to criticize necessarily the person because they need to learn. But nevertheless, that becomes a standard where mistakes are made because we don't realize you have to have qualifications for entry, and we should work on them. Even if we don't have them, we should work to attain them. But in order to attain them, we have to know what they are. And that's why this methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah is so important. So Al-Bayhaqi was a Hafiz. And he was a Hafiz and a Shafi'i Imam in jurisprudence. He followed the madhab. If you pay attention to all these great scholars that we mentioned, and Nawawi, he followed the madhab. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, he followed the madhab. Al-Ghazali, he followed the madhab. Now we're talking about Al-Bayhaqi, he followed the madhab. All of them followed the madhab. In Aqidah, they were all Ash'ari. They followed a madhab in fiqh. They happened to be Shafi'i. They were all following the spiritual path of tasawwuf. Shouldn't I tell you something? This is the experts. These are the great scholars. Upon everyone relies upon their works. Everyone who comes after them relied upon their works. This was their methodology. But here we are today. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Where we leave the experts and we go to the apprentice, if you want to give us that level. We ignore what the experts say and we take the opinion of the apprentice. Who does that? The apprentice is beginning to learn the craft. And the apprenticeship has levels. Not the one who's beginning his apprenticeship is not like the one who's getting ready to come out of the apprenticeship. Right? But we have a bunch of apprentices trying to play expert and ignoring the words of the experts. And this is problematic. So one of the things we should learn is what is expertise and what is, not expertise. Now,
Vahabi was to say of him, had Bayhaqi wanted to found his own school of jurisprudence and be its mujtahid, he would have been able to, because of the vast range of subjects of which he was a master, and his knowledge of scholarly differences.
Here, listen to this. Al-Dhahabi, he was a Hafiz as well. And we'll read about Al-Dhahabi as well. Al-Dhahabi, he was a Hafiz and he was strict in weighing and evaluating and criticizing the ranks of scholars, not common people, the ranks of top-level scholars. And Al-Dhahabi was known to be extremely critical, and strict in weighing people. But look what he said about Al-Bayhaqi. And he was a Hafiz, and he was a Shafi'i. Look what he said about Al-Bayhaqi. Read that again. Had Bayhaqi wanted to?
Had Bayhaqi wanted to found his own school of jurisprudence and be its mujtahid, he would have been able to.
Right, stop there. If Al-Bayhaqi, barakallahu fiki, may Allah reward you. If Al-Bayhaqi wanted to have his own madhab and be its mujtahid, we said that mujtahid is what? Define mujtahid for me, inshallah, quickly. I'm trying to drill these terms in your mind. We have work to do. What is a mujtahid? What is a mujtahid? Mujtahid, able to deduce from the four primary sources. Different definition. That's true. But give me the definition of mujtahid. When we say someone's a mujtahid, what do we mean? An abe, a scholar that is... Okay. All of those are good, deducing judgments. So that is, he is a top-level Islamic scholar, jurist, who has the necessary qualifications to issue expert legal opinion. Great, right there. That's what I was looking for. Where you go? You disappeared that quick? Oh. This is what I was looking for. That's what I was looking for. One who is qualified to issue expert legal opinion, right? Why? Because that person has the ability to deduce legal rulings from the primary sources of Islamic law. Quran, Sunnah, Ijma, Qiyas, and the other things. Question. I told some of you, so some of you might not know this, but some of you who have been studying with us for a while would know this. To be mujtahid mutlaq, that high level, absolute mujtahid, at minimum, how many hadith does that scholar need to have memorized with the chain of narrations? Does anyone know? The mujtahid mutlaq, the absolute mujtahid, like Abu Hanifa, like Shafi, like Malik, like Ahmed. How many hadith that the scholars mentioned that mujtahid has at least with his chain of narrations? MashaAllah. Yes, 300,000. Imam Fahim, I'm going to overlook you. Right, nice. My man's Imam of the Boom Bap. Right? 300,000 with their chains of it. So that mujtahid is above a hafiz. 300,000 hadith with their chains of narration. So we're not talking about some person, anybody. Mujtahid is high. So he's saying Al-Bayhaqi, at his level, if he wanted, he could have had his own school and been the mujtahid. That lets you know how vast his knowledge was. And who is saying that? Al-Dhahabi, someone who was a master of hadith and the Islamic science. So there's an expert talking about another expert. Keep in mind who's making the statement. It's not just anyone. Al-Dhahabi is making that statement. Very important. Naam, go ahead.
Bayhaqi's works amount to nearly 100.
Because we went back, remember?
Sorry.
Because of the vast
range of subjects of which he was a master in his
so
knowledge.
let's talk about that, right? The vast subjects of which he was a master. Bayhaqi was a master of hadith. Imam al-Bayhaqi was a master of Quran. Al-Bayhaqi was a master of usul al-fiqh. He was a master of al-fiqh. He was a master of the hadith of Ahkam, the verses of Ahkam. He was a master of the Arabic language and its sciences. He had a vast knowledge, not just one subject. He wasn't just knowledgeable in hadith. He was knowledgeable in aqidah. He was knowledgeable in al-fiqh. He was knowledgeable in tasawwuf. He was knowledgeable about Allah. He had a vast amount of knowledge in different subjects. Now,
and his knowledge of scholarly differences.
which is extremely important. that he was also aware of what other scholars who were mujtahidun, what their opinion was, what the proof for their opinion was, from what their usul was, how they built their madhabs. He had all that knowledge. And his books reflect that. His books that he wrote, which are volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of books that he wrote himself without the help of others, without a computer. This was in his mind. He would write, right? So he wasn't, how do you say, imbalanced in his knowledge. He knew mastery of the different sciences. And I want you to highlight this issue because we mentioned before, we studied one of the books of Al-Bayhaqi, Al-Kitab Al-Asma wa Sifat. And we saw the belief of Al-Bayhaqi, and we saw how Bayhaqi narrated hadith and how he knew statements. It's extremely important that you get these scholars. It's going to be a help for you. Now, go ahead.
Bayhaqi's works amount to nearly 1,000 volumes.
You hear that? His writings, 1,000 volumes. That's his writings. Subhanallah. That's just his work alone. What about all the other great scholars and you add their work? Do you know how much, why I said we got a long way to go? Just his writings, his books alone is an endeavor. Just his works. Now, if we talked about the scholars talk about the works of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, talk about the works of An-Nawawi, talked about the works of Imam al-Ghazali, and add to that the works of Al-Bayhaqi, you see what kind of library we're talking about? Just with their works alone. That's a library. A huge library. And we're only talking about 4 scholars. Major works. What we want to do is expose us to this rich tradition so no one can come with us with some slogan, I follow Quran and Sunnah. You don't even know Quran and Sunnah yet, Habibi. You cannot follow Quran and Sunnah. You need to follow a madhab. You need to follow qualified scholarship. You don't even have enough knowledge, not information about what is in the books. You don't even know the books. Think about that. We're saying I follow Quran and Sunnah. Quran, one book. So you can have the Quran. Understanding is a whole nother story. But the hadith are many books of hadith. And most of the person who says I follow Quran and Sunnah is not even aware of the books of al-hadith. Not even aware of the books that are available, let alone what is in them. Learning about a book is one thing. Knowing what's in it is another thing, and understanding it is another step. Most of those who say that don't even know the books, let alone what is in them, and definitely don't understand it. Al-Bayhaqi, vast knowledge. Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, vast knowledge. An-Nawawi, vast knowledge. Imam al-Ghazali, vast knowledge. Very important. Go ahead.
Treating the sciences of hadith, Quranic exegesis, sacred law, tenets of faith, and other subjects.
So those thousands of books, they cover in all these areas. Hadith, tafsir al-Quran, fiqh, aqidah, and other subjects. And I remember reading with some of my teachers the books of Al-Bayhaqi. We used to get tired just reading the chains of narration. Before he's even talking about the subject, his knowledge of the chains of narration of reports and how they relate and how you have evidences from other reports to this report and how this report is strengthened by this report or how this report is contradicted by this report. Just going through that was like, oh, la ilaha illallah. Subhanallah. To see the level of their scholarship. To see the level of their scholarship. Naam. Go ahead.
The Imam of the two sanctuaries, Juwayni, once observed,
We said Imam al-Juwayni. When did Imam al-Juwayni die? Let's see if you remember from yesterday. When did he die and who was he? Who was Imam al-Juwayni? Okay. So who was Imam al-Juwayni as well? The teacher of Imam al-Ghazali. Barakallahu bikum. Naam. So Imam al-Juwayni, and what was his title? What was he known as? What was his title of Imam al-Juwayni? What was his title? So Imam al-Ghazali was known as Hujjatul Islam. What was Imam al-Juwayni known as? Imam of the two sanctuaries, right? Imam al-Haramain, right? Imam al-Haramain. I want you to pay some attention to this. When you get all these names, all of them follow madhab, all of them were Ash'ari or Maturidi, all of them were Sufis. I want you to pay attention. When those people come to you and they say we follow Quran and Sunnah, pay attention to some of the books when they use the books of classical scholars and watch their methodology contradict. You're going to hear them mention Imam al-Juwayni and Imam al-Nawawi and Imam al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani and Imam al-Bayhaqi, but they're not going to tell you about these people. All of them were Ash'a'ira. All of them were Sufis. All of them followed the school of Ash-Shafi'i. All of them followed the madhab. Pay attention to that. And then the one who is giving you, he's quoting these people as if he's following them and he's way away from what they did. Pay attention to that. This is going to be a way to protect yourself from misguidance, inshallah. Now,
Juwayni once observed, every Shafi'i scholar is indebted to Shafi'i except Bayhaqi, to whom Shafi'i is indebted for his writing so many works strengthening the school, expanding questions on which the Imam had been brief and supporting his positions. He died in Nishapur in 458, 1066.
mashallah, may Allah raise the rank of Imam al-Bayhaqi. And you heard what Imam al-Juwayni said, who came after Imam al-Bayhaqi. He said all of the Shafis are indebted to Imam al-Shafi except al-Bayhaqi. Imam al-Bayhaqi, al-Shafi owes him a favor. Now, let us go to and close out this section of Sunan al-Tawfiq, page 59. Yes, we're on page 59 of Sunan al-Tawfiq, the book, The Ladder to Success. Inshallah, let's read this last 2 pages and we'll finish Kitab al-Salah, inshallah. Bismillah. Al-Fatiha ila ruh Sayyidi al-Habib Abdullah bin Hussein bin Tahir al-Fatiha. Now,
The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, the minimum shrouding is to cover the entire body if someone else is paying for his shroud, such as when it is
where we at?
page 59, the third paragraph.
Oh no, the minimum washing. Start from there, inshallah.
Sorry. The minimum washing is to remove the filth, to cover all of his body and hair, even if thick, one time, and to use purifying water.
And we mentioned yesterday when we were talking about water is of 3 kinds: purifying, pure, and filthy. So what one needs to do the ghusl for the dead person is purifying water. Ma'ul mutahhir. Naam.
The minimum shrouding is to cover the entire body if someone else is paying for his shroud, such as when it is paid by an individual who is required to support him, the Muslim treasury, an endowment for funerary preparations, or affluent Muslims. The head of a male pilgrim and the face of a female pilgrim are exceptions from covering the entire body. 3 shrouds are the minimum for someone, whether the deceased is male or female, whose estate exceeds his debts and who did not state so in his will, i.e., did not state foregoing using more than one.
Now, go ahead.
The minimum prayer over him, i.e., its essential elements, is number 1, a male, even a minor with discernment, intending in his heart to perform the prayer over him, and that the prayer is obligatory and identifying the deceased, even by using a linguistic device to indicate particularity, like this, and saying in one's mind, I pray the obligatory funeral prayer on this deceased. Number 2, to make the first saying of Allahu Akbar. One says, Allahu Akbar. This is the one for entering the prayer, and the aforementioned intention must accompany it. Number 3, he prays standing if he is able. Number 4, he then reads Al-Fatiha. Number 5, then the second time he says Allahu Akbar. Number 6, he then says Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Number 7, then the third time he says Allahu Akbar. Number 8, then he says Allahumma lahu. Oh Allah, forgive him. Or Allahumma hamhu. Oh Allah, grant him mercy. Number 9, then the fourth time he says Allahu Akbar. Then he says Assalamu alaikum.
So these are the arkan of the Salatul Janazah. So these things are those obligatory parts that must be fulfilled for the prayer over the deceased to be valid. Naam.
The conditions for prayer and omitting invalidators are necessary during it. It is also a condition that it is preceded by washing the deceased.
So here, as we talked about with everything, there are shurut, the conditions that are like for the other prayers, and there are the invalidators of the prayer. And one had learned them before when we were talking about the mubtilatus salat, or the invalidators of the prayer. Now,
the minimum burial is a hole that conceals its, i.e., the interred body's smell and protects it from predators. It is recommended to deepen the grave the amount of standing and extending the hands and to widen it. It is obligatory to face him, i.e., the deceased, towards the direction of prayer.
وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَى سَيِّدِنَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ أَجْمَعِينَ. With that, we covered the obligatory knowledge related to the prayer. And we will come back and we will review some of these cases. So where we have reached up into this book, alhamdulillah, we dealt with the subjects of the creed and as-salah and tahara. So we did creed and keep the cycle, the order of the book. We covered the issues of the creed, the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messengers. We talked about as-sam'iyat, the belief in the matters of the hereafter. We talked about ridda, apostasy, because once you embrace Islam, you need to learn that which will keep you in Islam to protect yourself from falling out of or exiting the deen of Islam by a statement or an action or a belief. And after we learned apostasy, we also learned about enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong. And then we went into the subject of purification and prayer. And we learned about the times of salah, the conditions for tahara, the obligations for ablution, the invalidators of ablution, the obligations for al-ghusl, the invalidators of al-ghusl, how to make al-istinja, to clean oneself from an-najasa after using the lavatory. We learned about at-tayammum, how to use dry earth. We learned about, for purification, we learned about how to pray the Salatul Jama'ah, the congregational part prayer, the rules and conditions related to following an imam. We learned about al-Jumu'ah, how to perform the 2 speeches of the Jumu'ah, what are the conditions, what are the requisites, what are the invalidators. We learned about the prayer of al-Jumu'ah, and then we learned about Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Al-Janaza, the funeral prayer, and how to wash, shroud, and bury the deceased. So with that, all of those matters among the obligatory knowledge related to those issues were covered. Inshallah, after reviewing, we're going to review some of these cases. Then we'll go into Kitab az-Zakat, the book of Zakat. And Allah knows best. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask about what we've mentioned, inshallah. Allah, this is going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. So prepare yourself for lengthy study. And step by step, but you got to do your homework. You got to study. You have to review. You know, reviewing is extremely important. You should read the book. I would suggest you read from the beginning up to where we at, like 5 times. Minimum of 3. Like just reading. Go from the beginning of the book all the way up to the book of Zakat. And read it at least 3 times. Make your intention to do it, inshallah. It will be of great benefit. Imam Amin, what do you say about Ad-Daraqutni? I say Ad-Daraqutni was a scholar, a hafidh of hadith, very knowledgeable about hidden defects in hadith, and he has his book as Sunan Ad-Daraqutni, which is an important book in the science of hadith. And La ilaha illallah. Allah. Will you teach and show us how to memorize hadith or cases? That's later, inshallah. If we stick to what we're doing, that's the thing I love to do, to work in the field of hadith and research. So inshallah, if Allah gives us time, space, and availability, it is something that I love to do, you know, and I don't mind working with you with it. But I want to cover the obligatory knowledge first, because it's blameworthy to have people doing stuff and they didn't learn the obligatory knowledge. Inshallah. Uh, about raising the hands during Allahu Akbar. I have been in the ranks where they raise the hand once during the prayer and sometimes through the prayers, which is right. It depends which madhab one follows. In the Shafi'i school, you're going to raise the hands several times throughout the prayer. So inshallah, when we go into the sunnahs of the prayer in our next book, which would be Safinatul Najah, we'll talk about the sunnah aspects of the prayer. Now, but in the Shafi'i school, you're going to have multiple locations where you raise your hands. May Allah reward you. How did I get up there? Oh, I did it. I am reading my second read. MashaAllah. Wait till you get to 7, 8, 9, 10 readings. You're going to have a big benefit. MashaAllah. Keep up the good work. May Allah reward you. I'm sorry. Was that question during the funeral prayer? Even in the funeral prayer, you raise the hands. No. I mean no offense or arrogance. I don't take it offensive or arrogance. I'm your brother. You can talk to me. I want you to understand. I'm not sensitive for all of you. I am not sensitive at all. Not even a little bit. Especially when it comes to religious knowledge. I can take it just like I can give it up. I just need a proper understanding because perhaps I was taught wrong. But I'm a student from Shahada to the grave. So what does Sufism mean, and is it bid'ah? In simpleness, if I put it in its simplest terms, Sufism is, because it takes up, Sufism is two things basically: removing blameworthy characteristics from oneself and adorning oneself with praiseworthy characteristics. So everything the sacred law deems as a blameworthy thing, the object of Sufism is to remove that. And everything the sacred law says is a praiseworthy characteristic, Sufism is designed to adorn one's heart with that, while complying with the outward dictates of the sacred law. So it's an outward conformity to the sacred law with an inward training of the heart to approach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a summary of tasawwuf, right? Which is all based on the sacred law, the Quran, the Sunnah, the agreement of the scholarly consensus. That is a tasawwuf. Is it bid'ah? Absolutely not. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions, the followers of the followers, all follow the path of tasawwuf. If you mean the term at tasawwuf, Sufism, is that a term that is a new term? Yes, it was in the early days, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't use the term tasawwuf. But the practice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was definitely the practice of tasawwuf. And the scholars, they said there is no consideration of terms. We look at the meaning of the terms, because the Prophet never said hadith is sahih or hasan or da'if, but people say that. The Prophet ﷺ never mentioned usul al-fiqh. The Prophet ﷺ never had all these rules of Arabic language and all of these sciences that we have in the technical form. They were not existing during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. But the meanings of them all existed. So that is what meant with tasawwuf. In more details, just follow our class. We're full of tasawwuf. That is Sufism. No great scholar of Islam wasn't a Sufi. So that's sufficient. All of those great scholars of Islam were all Sufis. All of them. So there should be no paying attention to this new deviant sect that contradicts all of our Islamic history and claims everything is innovation and not the way of the Salaf. And all of that really applies to them when you learn the way of the Salaf. All four Imams were masters of the Hadith knowledge. These Imams were great. You cannot be a mujtahid scholar and not know Hadith. It's not possible. These were masters. And remember, those four Imams had around them masters like them. Their students were masters as well. Their students were mujtahid scholars as well, not just the Imams. Yes, during the funeral prayer, Sister Wafia, there is raising of the hands as well in the Shafi'i school. Every book I give you or that I mention to you, I suggest you read it on your own. And in the class, as we go through the class, we will take sections. We will eventually reach, right now, the reliance of the traveler. I want you to understand, the reliance of the traveler is only from book D to book O. So you know, if you look at, let me get it quickly. Where's my, oh, here it go. If you look at the book Reliance of the Traveler, we're using it in the class as a reference tool, not necessarily for rulings of al-fiqh, because the rulings of al-fiqh, we got to go through several books before we get to the Reliance of the Traveler. So we're going to read several books of al-fiqh before we reach the Reliance of the Traveler, its section of al-fiqh. So what we're doing now, if you look at your book in the Reliance of the Traveler, and someone who is a good writer, please type fast, please put this in the comments. Reliance of the Traveler, the translation goes from A, right, to books Y, right? From A to Y. From A to Y. The actual, so books A to C are notes, right? That the translator put in about knowing about sacred law, right? So books A to C are notes, like preliminary notes or notes to prepare you to study sacred law and some important issues. So he's talking about knowledge, about following qualified scholarship, and the nature of legal rulings, right? Right? Which is important as like an introduction towards studying fiqh. Books D all the way to book O, right, is the actual reliance of the traveler, right? So books O, from D to O, that is reliance of the traveler. The rest of the book is not the original reliance of the traveler. Reliance of the traveler is only a book of fiqh. It doesn't talk about anything else. It talks about al-ahkam al-fiqhiyya, about the rulings of a fiqh. From P all the way to the rest of the books are extra notes that the author put that are needed for the one who is traveling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And in W, he talks about different subjects that a person needs to become familiar with that are contentious or that are give more information to points mentioned in the book. So you got to remember this translation, its intent was to be a manual, a reference manual for someone who is traveling the path to Allah. So he needs some aqidah, so it has aqidah in there. He needs al-fiqh, it has fiqh in there. He needs some tasawwuf, there is tasawwuf in there. And he needs to know some cases, some different aspects of the religion. All that, he tried to encompass all of that as if you were sitting with a sheikh. And when you sit with a sheikh, what would you cover? And he was teaching you, you would cover all these things. So he tried to put that in a brief way so that you can have whatever you need to travel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the purpose of the book. So we use those reference points so that you will be able to follow me, right? Because I could mention them without using this book at all, but then you don't have a tool to refer to. So if I use this book and then I supplement for more details the original books that are usually in Arabic, right? And give it to you, you have a source what to read on your own, right? And to get a basis. Then when I expand in the Arabic books, you're able to follow me. That's why I mentioned to you scholars and books. I'm trying to build you up now. So as we advance, you got your foundation. Then when we start talking about more details, you're not confused. You know what we're talking about, right? You've got a grasp of the Islamic sciences. you got a grasp of the fields of Islamic study, right? Remind me tomorrow that tomorrow's class, I'm going to talk about the main Islamic fields of study, or should I say Islamic sciences. Right? I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. So tomorrow's class, we won't be reading. I'm just going to explain to these the science. So we won't read a book tomorrow. I'm going to go over. It may take me 2 days or 3 days because we finished the chapter of Salat and I'm going to be reviewing in that. I'm going to ask you questions. So go back and study what we covered because I'm going to ask you questions about Kitab al-Tahara and Salat. But tomorrow and maybe the next day, so don't miss, I'm going to go over the various Islamic sciences that one needs to learn. I'm going to tell you what those sciences are and maybe mention some of the books and some of the famous scholars who wrote in those sciences. But definitely, at first, I'm going to tell you the sciences that you need to learn. And in time, you're going to learn them all right now. Right? So, inshallah, I'm trying to help you. Really, we got a lot to do. We got a lot of work. We're not going to do microwave Islam. I don't do it. We're going to take our time, but trust me, after a year of everyday studying, you're going to have a good grasp, right? You're going to have a good grasp. That if Allah give us life and give you tawfiq and give me tawfiq, that I can promise you, right? If you just studied this book, Sunan al-Tawfiq, well, and you understood its cases well, this book, The Ladder of Success, you understood the cases well with the explanation of your teacher, other people would think you a scholar. Trust me, other people would think you're a scholar. If you study those cases well, and then you took good notes from your teacher, people that you talk to normally would think you're a scholar. You're not, but they would think you are because of the vastness of the subjects you'll be able to discuss and knowing about scholars and knowing about books and right. You'll have a sound understanding of your deen. You won't change your deen tomorrow, right? And you'll be able to see, like after studying a year, you won't fall for Salafi Wahhabi stuff at all. It won't even make sense to you when you study. But the problem why that's easy to tell someone we follow Quran and Sunnah and this is the madhab of the Salaf and this is bid'ah, these people don't know. They have no clue at all. And that's because no one told them. Like really, they don't know all these rules. They didn't even know this stuff exists. They didn't know about scholarships and what's the rank of a scholar and what a scholar knows, and they have no idea. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of learning. It takes time. You know what I mean? And trust me, Allah said in the Quran, say, do those who know, are they equal to those who do not know? They're not equal, right? They're not equal. So when you learn, inshallah, you'll see. But learning takes time. If you don't want to spend time, you're not going to have a grasp. You got to take your time and you got to spend years and effort, you know? You think we do this every day for just our health? No, we want to learn. We want to study. We need to review. We need to read over and over and over and over because our minds, we don't memorize well. So what do we have to do? We keep going over and over and over and reviewing the cases and going over the cases and adding details and to the point where it becomes a part of us. Hmm. I heard a most famous American-born seeker of knowledge called a sheikh not give Imam Shafi'i and Imam Abu Hanifa credit for being master muhaddiths. I believe him until you clarified it. Just like, it's nonsense. Seriously, it's nonsense. These people, a lot of them, they're parrots. They're parrots. If you ask that person, honestly, what was the knowledge of Imam Abu Hanifa in hadith? Tell me about it. How many hadith did Imam Abu Hanifa memorize? Who were the sheikhs of Imam Abu Hanifa? From whom did Imam Abu Hanifa learn? They couldn't tell you. So all they're doing is quoting what somebody said. No, tell me the students of Abu Hanifa. Do you know Imam Abu Hanifa was the Imam in Iraq in the time of the Tabi'een and Atba'i Tabi'een? So we talk about the Salaf. You got the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the followers of the Sahaba, and the followers of the followers. Imam Abu Hanifa was the Imam in Iraq in the generation of the followers and the followers of the followers. Do you think he didn't know hadith and he was the Imam of them? That doesn't even make sense. Think about that. That doesn't make any sense at all. And I remember one sheikh, imam, student of knowledge, whatever you want to call him, he said that to Sheikh Samir. He said it to me. And I said, here's Sheikh Samir right there. Tell him that. I'm not Hanafi. I know it doesn't make no sense, but this is a master of Hanafi fiqh. Sheikh Samir teaches at the PhD level in Hanafi fiqh. The major books of Hanafi fiqh, that's what he teach regularly. I said, go tell him that. And I never forget it. I was present. That person mentioned some hadith. Talking about Imam Abu Hanifa, didn't know hadith. Sheikh Samir said, that hadith you use, he knew well, and the hadith you use is a proof against you. No preparation, straight from the head. He said, check this book, check this book, check this book. And the guy was like, I got to wait till I get home. I said, no, you don't. Hear all the books he mentioned are right here. That guy didn't even know how to research the books. And he was a graduate from the University of Medina. He didn't even know how to search the books. Think about that. And the books were right there. We was in my office. I said, here's the books. Every book he mentioned, here they are. He didn't even know how to search the books. And he was talking hadith. I'm on hadith. The sheikh said, your hadith is a proof against yourself. Silenced him. Not even 5 minutes. I said, subhanallah. And not to put the person down, because I believe the person had good intention, but he's just parroting what he heard. Know nothing about Abu Hanifa at all, or the Hanafi school. I have a book that Sheikh teaches in Damascus. The book is around 14 volumes, and the whole book is about the hadith proof for the Hanafi school. First, they don't follow hadith. The whole book, like 16 volumes, each 14 volumes, or maybe 14 volumes. Each volume between 400 to 600 pages. All of it is talking about the hadith evidences for the Hanafi school. From the beginning of Tahara all the way to the end of fiqh. And then it says Imam Abu Hanifa didn't know hadith. Well, Abu Yusuf didn't know hadith. Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani didn't know hadith, right? Az-Zufar, all of those great imams that were around Abu Hanifa, teachers and students, all of them who reached the level of ijtihad, none of them knew hadith either. And they just sat around and followed a guy who doesn't know nothing about hadith and followed his methodology. That's insane. These were top level scholars, all of them. But they're just going to let someone who don't know hadith lead them? That's an insult, such a statement. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I mean, but believe me, I know we don't think about what we're saying. That's an insult to all of those great scholars that were in his time. And all of those great scholars who were Hanafi, who came after Imam Abu Hanifa and followed his madhab, to say that he didn't know hadith is an insult to all of these great scholars who followed his madhab for over 1,000 years. Come on, listen what you're saying. And besides that, it doesn't make sense. Just listen to what, you know how many thousands of great scholars were Hanafi? Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands for over 1,000 years. And in the time of the Salaf, those scholars were following Abu Hanifa. What are you talking about? Doesn't make any sense. Except that if you tell that to somebody who don't know the foolishness of such a statement. I'm sorry to go, you know how to get me riled up. We got a lot of learning to do, man. Seriously. Do you know the main student of Abu Hanifa? Listen to this. One of the main students of Abu Hanifa, his name is Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, radiyallahu ta'ala. You know, he studied hadith with Imam Malik. He studied with Abu Hanifa. He went to Al-Madinah. He studied with Imam Malik. He has a narration, a riwayah of the Muwatta of Imam Malik, in which he compared the opinions of Imam Malik with the judgments of Abu Hanifa. On all of those hadith, he was aware of them. And he gives in his book what the Hanafi position is on those issues, which makes his narration of the Muwatta very strong. He was aware. What are you talking about? They didn't know hadith. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Subhanallah. Okay, let me move on. We got to get ready to end. I'm sorry for going over time. But blame it on Issa and Farouk. They always trying to get me riled up. Their fault. I'm almost finished. Let me just make sure I'll answer one or two more questions. The book, Kwame, is on our website, MMAC, www.mmacbooks.com. All of the books we teach are on the website. Slow down, Chunky. Guys are funny. That's it, right? Allah. Okay. I think we're finished. That's it. That's it. think that's it. Yeah, I finished. Yeah. Okay, good. Alhamdulillah. On Monday, uh, we are doing this translation. We're not Monday. Monday, we're doing this version of the Ihya. And this is the original Arabic book. This is not available. This is my book. But we're doing this. We're reading the book in Arabic, and we're making comments on the translation. So you can read the translation and follow, but the book is being read in Arabic, and I'll just make comments on the Arabic book in English. So that's because our purpose is to read the book and get familiar with it. But you can read the English book, and as we go along, we're working on it. I'm correcting some translation mistakes in the book, you know. Then we're going to read another edition, another version, another summary, and then we're going to go into the complete Ihya. So we are doing the reading of the Ihya now in Arabic, and inshallah, after we finish these two muqtasars, then we'll go to the full Ihya. Inshallah. Okay. And put the link for the Reliance of the Traveler up there, please. So that, because some don't have it and they wanted to get it. All right. So we got stimulus so we can afford all the books. Oh, that's funny. Alhamdulillah. 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 That is the best thing to spend your wealth on, seeking knowledge. Trust me, I got way more books than I could ever read in my lifetime, but I'm still, I still read and I still buy what I need. But we read together, so it makes it easier. Can use list the solicitor. I don't say stay away from. You have a teacher, trust your teacher, learn what your teacher's teaching you. Master that and then go. I don't like to say don't listen to them, don't listen to them, don't. You have a teacher, you're learning, you have enough what you have right now in this class to memorize, to occupy you all day long, right? Study your notes. Study the books that you have right now, right? Learn your matters well, right? Then you will know from learning what to stay away from, right? Seriously. You know, listen, don't listen to them, don't listen to them, don't listen. No, learn your religion and you'll know who not to listen to. As soon as they talk, right? My teachers never sit around and told me, don't listen to this one, watch this one, watch this one. They told us in general, there is this group in our time that deviating from the way of Ahl Sunnah. They are called Al-Wahhabiyya. They are so-called Salafiyya, right? This is their doctrine. This is what they say, right? But they were teaching us. So, right, as we learn, we knew the truth. And when you know the truth, the falsehood becomes clear, right? So when someone comes and tells me, you know, Ash'aris are deviant, the Ash'aris deviant, and I already know Imam al-Nawawi was an Ash'ari, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani was an Ash'ari, Al-Ghazali was an Ash'ari, Al-Bayhaqi was an Ash'ari, Al-Juwayni was an Ash'ari, As-Subki was an Ash'ari, and on and on and on and on. And then I see that same person who says the Ash'aris were deviant, reading Ash'ari books and misinterpreting Ash'ari books. I say, wait a minute. You said they're deviant, but all your references are from Ash'aris. Where's your scholars? And then when I see you mention your scholars, like so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and I compare them to the scholars of the Ash'aris, there's no comparison. The levels of knowledge are like night and day. So you tell me Albany, for instance, is the great hadith scholar. And then when I look at the Asharis, who were scholars of hadith in his time, and those before, like Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar al-Asqalani and Nawawi, Albany doesn't even fit in the conversation. Al-Iraqi, Al-Bulkini, As-Suyuti. What are you talking about? That's not even a conversation. You can't compare them at all. That's not even a comparison. So how do you know that? From learning, right? It's not a conversation. You're telling me what Bin Baz said. Come on, man, that's not a scholar in terms of scholarship. He's a scholar in relating to us. If you want to make us at some level, we can't tie his shoes. If you want to talk about information, but we're not scholars, and neither is he. So when we're talking about real mujtahid scholars and experts, he's not an expert. You celebrate the fact that he may have memorized some of the 6 books. For the scholars, that's breakfast. He memorized Al-Bukhari. That's all? Really? It's not a comparison to scholars. To us, that's great. That's phenomenal. But for real scholars, that's not even a conversation. He can't even sit in their circles. If you get my point, right? It's a big difference. What I'm trying to get you is to have respect. To learn enough to have respect. And when you have respect, adab, you'll benefit from that scholarship, right? And there's another extreme. There's another extreme. And I want to warn you, and I'm putting you, Ahmed, because I don't want nobody to fall into this extreme. There's another extreme. Yes, Bin Baz, Al-Albani, all of them had bad beliefs. Wahhabiyya, Mujassima, Mushabbiha, true. That doesn't mean they didn't have any knowledge. And if you approach it like that, you are mistaken. They had knowledge, they had information, and they had a lot of errors, right? But we don't deny that they had some information, some knowledge, right? So don't go to another extreme and say, oh, because they were Mujassima and they were Mushabbiha, they didn't know anything. That's not true. They were wrong in these, and they were right in some things. They had knowledge in some things, and some things they were way off. Learn knowledge, not just name calling, right? I'm only pointing that out to point that, because say if it's Bin Baz, it's all wrong. That's not necessarily true. Because Albani said it is all wrong. That's not necessarily true. The truth they said is true. What they said is false, and distinguish the difference. Don't just write people off because they don't fit into your box. You accept what is true and you reject what is false, no matter who it comes from, right? So be careful of this. As us as a people, we can't afford to do that. We're not blind followers of nobody. We follow the truth wherever it takes us, right? That's the reality. We follow the truth wherever it takes us. In other words, men are recognized and known by the truth. The truth is never recognized by men. Right? But that's important. That's extremely important. Because we're into seeking truth. Right? We want the truth. We don't want to just be cheerleaders with pom-poms. We don't want to be like that. We want to know the truth. Because if you're like that, what's going to happen? You're going to fall into extremes. You're going to fall into extremes. And you'll fall into an extreme that says everybody who's not like me is wrong. And that is an extreme. You'll fall into extreme everyone who is not just like me is wrong. And you'll find yourself even attacking people that are Ahl Sunnah because they don't agree with your position. And this is an extreme. I'm going to be light on you, Ahmed, so I'm going to let you go with all that, right? And I am Ahl Sunnah. I am following that path. Slow down, though. Slow down. Because I guarantee you, if you take that approach without understanding knowledge behind that approach and understanding the differences in what's the rules of the religion, you're going to be an extremist. Be careful. You're going to fall into a big extreme. Because if I asked you, you said they say this, they say this, they say that, more than 60 issues. That is false. That is false. That's not true. So you're mixing cases. You're talking about some people and you attribute it to others, and that's false. Because you mentioned names. You mentioned Bin Baz and you mentioned Albany. You mentioned names specifically. And then you said they insulted Allah by attributing Tadsim, Imam, and went against Ijma in more than 60 issues. If I ask you to tell me the 60 issues that Bin Baz contradict, that Albany contradict, I guarantee you couldn't do it. So why are you saying it? And that's bad, because when you talk to someone and you attribute to Albany or Bin Baz something that is attributed to Ibn Taymiyyah that he didn't say, that's false. It's not knowledge. It's parroting. Don't do that. Learn exactly what you're talking about before you start speaking. That doesn't make you perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. But don't be a parrot and then mixing things and mixing rulings. You do more damage than you do good when you do that. And here's my point. If you can tell me, I'll tell you. Because every position that Bin Baz holds, Albany doesn't hold. And every position that Ibn Taymiyyah held, Albany doesn't hold, neither does it Bin Baz. So you understand what I'm point? Not every issue. And I disagree, and I'm not talking about me. The scholars of Ahl Sunnah disagree with their positions of Tadsim or Tashbih, but they all don't believe the same thing. So you cannot make a blanket and put it on everyone. Right? They don't believe the same thing. So if you attribute it to them, you are unjust. So you say, Ibn Taymiyyah said this, but Albany didn't say that, nor did Bin Baz. Or Bin Baz said this, and Ibn Taymiyyah didn't say it, and Bin Baz didn't say it. And you put it on all of them. This is injustice. This is wrong. But how do you do that? When you just become a fanatic for a certain group, follow all their ideas without checking for yourself, and you start making mistakes. And that's haram. And I'm not talking about one specific person. I'm talking about a concept. We cannot afford to do that. That's all I'm saying. I understand the point, but don't do that. There are groups, and I don't want to name them. There are groups among Sunni Muslims who are extremists, and they go way beyond the bounds, right? And they have right things. They have some things that are right, correct belief, correct aqidah, but they go to extreme in other issues. And if a person doesn't know balance and the rules, they're going to be extremists. You're going to be extremists. And even though you are right in one thing, you can be totally wrong in another thing. And among them is if you attributed things to people that they didn't say. That's injustice. Right? Because you wrote everybody in one box. They're all deviants, they're all kafir, they're all mushrikun, they're all mujassima, they're all mushabbiyah. So now we can say whatever we want. La, that's not our religion. That's why you need tasawwuf. Because you can't even slander a non-Muslim. You can't lie against a non-Muslim. You cannot do that. That's haram. You cannot fabricate on people to prove your truths. That's haram. So if you're going to say something, you need to make sure that that's what that person said. And if you never read their books and really study their books, then you cannot attribute that to them. And you can't twist their words. If he said this, it means that. La. This is not valid. He said this, and this means this, so this means this, and that is the ruling for that. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is not valid. He said this, and then you should understand what he meant by that. And he should be able to clarify what he meant by that, not your interpretation of that. This is not valid. This is not a way to Islamically approach anything. So I hate to go. No, it's serious. Because guess what? If we don't learn how to learn, we're going to be servants forever. Seriously, we're going to be slaves forever. It's a bigger picture. It's a bigger picture. You don't learn your deen properly, you're going to be misguided, tricked, deluded over and over and over again. We have to learn our religion properly, period. No matter how hard it is, no matter how long it takes, we have to learn our religion properly. The days of just being parrots, the days of just blind following, the days of just, because the sheikh said, la, we got to study. We have to study. We have to study. We have to study. And we have to study qualified scholars. And we got to get to that because we still got to learn lessons and people tell us what they want. We got a long way to go. But we shouldn't get discouraged. Let's just start the path. Let's start the path. Right? Let's start the path. You know why the Wahhabis are so successful? You know why the Salafis are so successful spreading their self? Because the Sunnis are so ignorant. That's why. That's one, and I hate to say it like that. We don't know our stuff. We're satisfied with just saying, oh, they were happy. Oh, they liken it all to the creation. Okay. That ain't gonna carry it, bro. We need a little bit more. You need to learn. You need to be able to know your stuff. Most of us don't know our stuff. We don't. And we're satisfied with just false refutations. Don't be like that. Learn your matters. Learn it properly. And the worst thing, when we do that, we leave our brothers and sisters who don't know to stay in that state. We have work to do. Seriously. We have work to do. A lot of work. And I could go on and on with this. I got to stop because I'm not being fair to you. But be patient. Be patient. But learn. And don't be a fanatic. Learn your religion. Don't be an extremist. Because you got some truth, that doesn't mean you're right in everything. Learn to blame yourself. And Ahmed, I want to help you. And you can do it privately with me. You don't have to do it public. I want you to show me those 60 issues, right? You can send it to me personally. 60 issues, you said, right? That they insulted Allah, right? And went against ijma. You said more than 60. I'll make it easy. Give me 50-ish. Give me, heck with that. I'll make it real easy for you. Give me 10 issues that they went against. They made Tetsin. They went against ijma in the issue. And I want you to tell me in which book, because you didn't meet all of those people. I know you didn't. In which book Bin Baz did it, Albany did it, right? Because you mentioned Bin Baz and Albany. Which issue, which book, and which book where the consensus was narrated. That's a homework assignment for you to teach you a lesson, right? That's a homework, real research. So I want you to tell me what books Bin Baz contradicted 10 issues of ijma, just 10. You said 60. I know that's far off, but 10, right? In which books he said it, which one of his books, right? And then where is the ijma mentioned in which books? And do the same for Al-Albani. That's a homework project for you, right? Just 10. I didn't say 60. Give me 10. If you can't do it, and I'm almost 100% sure you can't do it, and I don't want you to go back running to your teachers and asking them, you made the statement, you show it. Because you made the statement. They didn't make it, you did. And if you repeated what they said without learning, you're blameworthy. Since you made the statement, you go do it. And I'm only coming down, I'm not coming down hard on you, I love you, but I don't want you to be a blind follower. So if you're making a statement, make sure you can prove it. Or don't make it. Because if you make it and it's unjust, you're sinful. And the fact that you are from Ahli Tanzi, or you're from the people of divine transcendence, or you're Ash'ari, don't mean you can lie on people. Don't mean you can be slandering people and saying things they didn't say. That's haram. And you're not allowed to do it. Even if they're wrong, even if they're mushabbiha. You cannot put it in their words. And if we get in that habit, of making sure we verifying what we're saying and checking, we'll probably speak less and it'll be more effective. It'll be more effective. And we would be able to explain the truth because we haven't, don't you notice those Wahhabis always say, where's your dalil? Where's your proof? Yeah, where's your proof? They're right, where's your proof? So do the work. And if you can't, then let's be humble and say, I can do it. I don't know. And then let's not speak without knowledge. As Imam al-Bukhari said, al-ilmu qabla al-qawli wal-amal. Knowledge must come before any statement or action. Don't do that. Study well and then say, he said in this book this, and this is what the statement was, and this is, yes, then this is valid. Now the person won't just say you're parroting your sheikhs. Or you just blind following your sheikhs. No, this is the book. This is what he said. Here's the statement. Here's this scholarship. And that's how we should have to learn so we can protect ourselves from sin and to convey the truth. And if we can't do it, that's fine. Let's learn to do it. And say, I apologize. I didn't have evidence for what I was saying, but I'm going to research. And here's what I found in my research. This is the beautiful thing to do. But making claims and just saying stuff because we think we're right, that's not valid. That's not acceptable. And it doesn't help us as Ahl Sunnah to spread the truth. And Allah knows best. Sayyidi Ahmed, I know it sounds like I was on your case. I love you. You know, I've had many, I've told you this before, but you keep going, right? Privately, I've told you the same thing. Now, you keep publicly bringing it, so I'm publicly telling you to stop. And I just gave you homework. Don't run from the homework. Go do the work. I'm waiting for you to show me. Because I love you, I want you to stop that. But I'm going to help you do it. As your brother, I love you. So please do the homework and send it to me. You don't got to put it in public. You can, if you want to, you can. And you can show that you did the work. But you can just show me, like you do all the time, right? Just show me your work. And if you give me the issues, I'll help you. How about that? I'll even help you with the issues. May Allah reward us. I'm sorry. Don't think I'm going hard. I love my brother Ahmed. He's my homie. But you know, I want us to learn. I want us to learn, and I don't want us to become extremists. Nor do I want us to commit sins in the name of truth. May Allah help us all. Barakallahu fikum. وجزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بارك الله بكم.